Graphing. Students will graph in the first quadrant of the coordinate plane ordered pairs of numbers arising from mathematical and real-world problems, including those generated by number patterns found in an input-output table. It used to look like this. In fourth grade, students determined the corresponding decimal to the tenths or hundredths place of a specified point on a number line. In fifth grade, now it looks like this. Students will now graph ordered pairs in the first quadrant, which it's apparent that in fourth grade they were not graphing. In the future, it will look like this. Students will graph points in all four quadrants using ordered pairs of rational numbers. Non-negotiable strategies. Think process time. Give students 30 seconds to answer questions. Structured talk time. Give students 1 to 2 minutes to discuss a problem and solve it together. Think out loud. Go over an example with the students, modeling your thought process out loud to solve the problem. Randomization. You can use various strategies such as popsicle sticks, stickers on the desk, student characteristics, class dojo, or whatever other randomization tools that you have or use in your classroom. And practice time. Just make sure that you're giving students an opportunity to practice problems after you have done them, after you have done some together as a class. These are strategies that you are going to be required to implement into your daily plans. Of course, you're not going to be required to do all these in one lesson, but you are going to require to have some of these in your lessons. Important. Here's some important information when you first begin talking to your students about graphing and the ordered pairs. So to locate points on a coordinate grid, you must find where the point intersects the x-axis and the y-axis. So we need to be looking here where the x-axis here intersects with the y-axis here. You must go in order. So in order to graph, we've got to go, since this is the x-axis here, in the letters of the alphabet, the x comes first, so we've got to go down x first, and then y. This is the y-axis, then y. So we're going to move on the x-axis first, then we're going to go on to the y-axis. Here's some little strategies here to help you use with the students who are having difficulty with memorizing which way they go first. Because the biggest misconception that the students have is they tend to go, when they're graphing, they tend to go up first and then to the side. We need to make sure they're going down the x-axis first and then going up the y-axis. So here's some things to help you with that. So remember, x comes before y in the alphabet, so that's one way to remember it. So that way they know, okay, I've got to go down x first because that's first in the alphabet, and then y. Another way to remember it is that you must walk to the elevator, so they know that they must walk to the elevator, and then they go before you can go up the elevator. So then they know x and then y. And one more, you run. You've got to run before you jump. You may even want to have kids give them, this may be a good opportunity to have the kids come up with their own little strategy to help them remember which axis they go down first. So you might say, okay guys, these are a few little tricks I've taught you. Let's see if you guys can come up with any other ones. Give them a couple of minutes and see which other strategies they come up with. And that's especially helpful because when they're coming up with these strategies themselves, they tend to remember them better. It's just an idea. Now we're going to practice some. We're using here our think out loud. So as a teacher, you would model this for the students. To find the coordinates of point A, first find where point A is located on the x-axis. So when we're looking at the graph here, which is our x-axis? Is our x-axis this one down here? Or is it this one up here? I want you guys to take a couple of seconds and talk to the person next to you. And talk to each other and be like, let's see which one's the x and which is the y. Let's see what you guys come up with. go ahead and begin. When you're done, please stand up. And please make sure, I don't want to see that just one person's doing all the talking. I want to see both of you contributing. So make sure both of you are talking to each other. It looks like you all are done. So go ahead and sit, have a seat now. Let's use Class Dojo here. Okay, Amy, Class Dojo chose you. So tell me, where is point A located on the x-axis? What am I going to do here to get to A? I'm doing what? I'm walking on the x-axis. Okay, but which one's the x-axis? Is it the one going left to right or the one going up and down? The one's going horizontal. Very good. So we're going to start. We always start out at 0, guys. This is our horizontal line. This is our vertical line right here. We start at 0, 0. We're going to walk to, we're walking on the x-axis. What do we walk to? Good. We walk to 2. Now next find where point A is located on the y-axis. So now that we've got x, it's much easier to find the y, right? So now we know after we walk to the elevator, now we go up the elevator. We're going to go up to the elevator, up to, we get to A, and it's 3. So our coordinates for A are 2, 3. And guys, and if you need to use your lines, you see how I'm modeling for you and I'm using lines to go to walk to the elevator and then go up the elevator. If that's helpful for you, go ahead and use it. Now, I know some of you may not need to use that little strategy there. That's fine. But if you need help with it and you find that useful, use it. Now here, what I'm going to do is we're going to work some together here as a whole class. We're going to do the first few letters. And then I'm going to let you and a partner finish up the rest. Okay? So we're going to begin here. We're doing this as a whole group. We're going to start out with, we're going to find the coordinates of B. Again, we're going to go, let's go ahead and put our finger here. Let's see where B is at. I'm going to put my finger. I know B is right here, right? This, I'm going to put it next right here because this is where we want to get to. Okay. Again, what do we have to do here? What's the very first thing we do before when we're trying to find our coordinates? If you're sitting at desk number 7. Alyssa? Okay. Alyssa, what do I have to do? I've got to walk to the elevator. Okay. And what does walk to the elevator mean, Alyssa? Good. I've got to go on the x-axis. Very good, Alyssa. So she said I'm walking to the elevators, which means I'm walking on the x-axis. I'm walking down the x-axis. And I walked to 3, right? So I know I'm going to have 3. And then what am I doing next? If you have a football sticker on your desk, please stand up. Okay, Danny. We walked to the elevator, which we walked to 3. Now, what do I have to do? I do what? I'm going up the elevator, okay? And going up the elevator is going up what? I'm going up the y-axis. Very good. So I'm going to go up the y-axis. I'm going up all the way to where the letter B is at, and that is 4. So I have 3/4. So I'm going to come up here and drag 3/4 to B. Good. Let's try another one together here. All right. Next one we have is C. Okay, so we found C. We're going to put an X there because that's where we want to go. Again, what are we going to do? We have to do what? We are walking down the x-axis. Remember, this is the x, and if you need to label them so that you don't get confused, go ahead and label them because not your graphs aren't always going to have your x and y axes marked on there. So if you need to mark them, mark them. And when you put the x, it's telling you you're walking down here. So we're going to see, we're going to go down our x-axis. We're walking all the way to 4. And then we're going to go up the elevator to, what do we get? 2. So now we have 4, 2. Remember, we cannot go up the elevator first. We cannot go up the elevator first if we don't walk to it. We have to walk to the elevator. We have to walk to the elevator first. And I'm just telling you that because I know that many of you are going to try to go up the elevator before walking to it. Remember, we have to walk before we go up. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to work out the rest of these. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes or so to work on these with the partner, and then we'll go over them. Okay, after giving them about 3 or 4 minutes to work on these, then I would move on. We would go over them, have them check themselves, and then we would go over to the next slide. And now this time we're going to be graphing data. But with here we have, it says coordinate grids can also be used when graphing data, which is our coordinate grid right here. This is our coordinate grid right here. The graph below shows the data from the table. How would you write the ordered pairs for this data? So here in 5th grade, you're also going to be responsible for not only having your input-output table, but you need to be able to put these into an input-output table. And from the input-output table, you need to know how to transfer that information to your grid. So we're going to begin here. So when we're looking at this input-output table, here we have, it says the age and the weight. This is pretty much like having your x and your y-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in this information you have here in this chart. We're going to plug it down into this input-output table here. So for our x here, for the first one, we have 2. And the y is going to be 2. We're done with those. I'm going to cross them out. Next one we have for x, we have 4. For our y, we have 5. So I'm going to cross those out. My next x, I have 5. And then I have, for my y, 5.5. And then my last x, I have 8. And for my y, I have 7. So now these are my ordered pairs. If I were to write these as ordered pairs, I would have 2, 2. I would have 4, 5. 5. And 5.5. And then I would have 8 and 7. Again, remember, the first one is our x. The second one is our y-axis. So now we use all this information. And again, what do we do when we first begin with our ordered pairs? What's the first thing we've got to do? Number 10. Jessica. We've got to do what? Oh, we're walking down the x-axis. We're walking to the elevator, right? So we're going on the x-axis. Very good. So we're going to walk down the elevator. We start out at 0. We're walking to 2. And then we're going up the elevator to 2. And then we're going to walk to 4. And then we're going to go up to 5. The next one we have, we're walking down to 5. And we're going up to 5.5. Uh-oh. Let's go and stop here real quick. We have 5.5. When we're looking at our chart, do we have halves here on the y-axis? We don't have halves. But can we still go and put that point on our graph? Yes, we can. So where would I put 5.5 at? Where would that number go? What is it, Tom? Between the 5 and the 6? Very good. Even though we don't have 5.5, we would be putting that point between the 5 and the 6, halfway between those two, because that 5.5 is half of 5. It's a halfway point of 5 and 6, so we would put it right here. And then the last one, we walk to 8, and then we go up to 7. So you need to make sure, guys, that you know how to use information from an input-output table, turn it into ordered pairs, and then use those ordered pairs to put them into a graph. And after doing a few more examples of these type of problems with the students, then I would move into practice work. And again, I would normally give students about 20 minutes. And for the practice work, I would give them similar problems to the ones that they've done on the flip chart. You don't want to introduce something that they haven't been taught, because if not, then they're not going to do very well on it. So, and as the kids are working on these problems, just it's a good idea to walk around and just help the students who are still struggling with this, or pull them for small group. Like I would either have them work with a partner, I would have them use a desktop traveler, scavenger hunt stations, or any other activity that pertains to the lesson. And after working on independently on some problems, then I would do my closing. And for my closing this time around, I have a ticket out the door. Since we were working with graphs here, I would use a graph as a ticket out the door. They would have to find out what message they have once they are able to go find these points on the graph and spell out the message, and that's how they'd be able to exit my classroom.